inyong lahat.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening po sa lahat ng nakikinig po.
Hello to all our viewers from here and around the world.
Napakaganda na ating tema ngayong hapon ito.
Isang mainit na pagbati po sa inyong lahat.
Welcome to the Bridges Show. I'm very happy to be here. And I think it should be a really interesting and fun topic.
But there are many things you want to learn. So I want to take it from there and then I listen to them.
Meron silang mga mitiin upang maging makabuluhan pa ang pagiging Katoliko. Lalong-lalo na sa susunod na henerasyon.
Sa akin po, sa mga kabataan, use competence, as a basis.
In real life, hindi naman talaga tayo tumitigil sa buhay. Kailangan talaga tuloy lang ang buhay kahit anong challenges natin.
Palawan, Cebu, Baguio City, Atty. Dwight, sila Union. So we are saying that revenge travel is real. Mas kailangan natin na i-share ang hiwaga ng sining sa mga tao.
Food and health should go hand in hand. So yan ang gusto namin paratingin sa gobyerno.
If you just devote your life to truth, hindi ka yayaman sa pera, pero yayaman ka sa tao.
Siyempre, ang pinakamaganda po naman sa ating universidad ay yung talagang matuturuan po tayo kung paano maging mabuting tao.
Happy anniversary to Bridges! Here at Bridges, we build bridges of faith, bridges of hope, and bridges of love.
Love, pain, forgiveness, and togetherness characterize marriages that last for a long time. But there are marriages that do not last long because of betrayal, abuse, disrespect, and frequent quarrels between the husband and wife. Our legislators believe that there could be an intervention by way of legislation. Thus, they passed House Bill 9349, or the proposed Absolute Divorce Act. By the Congress, this was done on its third and final reading. Today, we could reflect on the content of this bill together with our special guests. This is Atty. Dwight Ramos, the President of the UST Alumni Association Incorporated. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. And this episode is brought to you by the UST Alumni Association Inc. and the UST Law Alumni Foundation. Before we continue, may I ask our audience to please remember to like, share our show, and subscribe to the UST Thomasian Alumni Community YouTube channel and follow our Facebook page. Joining me this afternoon is Attorney Nathan Raphael Agustin, a very young lawyer who is an alumna of the UST Civil Law. Hello, Attorney Nathan, and welcome to Bridges.
Hello, Attorney Dwight. Ako naman po sa very young lawyer. And good afternoon, of course, to all those who are tuned in to this episode of Bridges. Again, this is Attorney Nathan Agustin, and as mentioned, an alumnus from the UST Faculty of Civil Law. Attorney Dwight, what can I say? I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me as your partner.
Yes, and likewise, we're very happy that you said yes to our invitation. No? Yes, that's true. Very young. Of course, compared to me at least. So, welcome to the show, and well, excited ka na ba sa topic natin today?
Ay, of course, Attorney Dwight. Sobrang excited na nga po ako mapakinggan ng ating special guest ngayon. Kasi, lalo na sa amin, sa alam ko at alam ng mga kada-estudyante sa UST Law na napakagaling ng ating speaker for this day.
Correct. And so, paano? Pwede na natin introduce?
For Attorney, it will be my pleasure. So with that, our guest today has been teaching civil law at the University of Santo Tomas Faculty of Civil Law since 1997 and at the DLSU Tanyada Diokno School of Law since 2023. Interestingly, she finished BS Math, major in Actuarial Science from the UST College of Science and went to UST Faculty of Civil Law where she obtained her Juris Doctor degree. She recently founded Can Mercado Peña and Seña Law Office, where she heads the firm's litigation and alternative dispute resolution practice. Prior to establishing her own law firm, Attorney Seña was a senior partner at Sigion, Reyna, Montesilio, and Onciaco, concurrently serving as deputy head of its litigation department and as head of its Intellectual Property Law Department. Friends, let us welcome Attorney Carla E. Santamaria-Seña, Class Valedictorian of Juris Doctor Class 1995, a fifth placer in the bar, and an expert litigator. Welcome to Bridges, Attorney Carla.
Hello, Nathan. Hello, Attorney Ramos. Good
Yes,
afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me.
yes, and we're so glad to have you, Attorney Carla. Of course, we're very proud of you, one of our best professors at the UST Faculty of Civil Law. And Nathan, naging under ka ba ni Attorney Carla?
Well, unfortunately, hindi ako naging student ni Attorney Carla. Pero of course, kahit hindi ka-student ni Attorney Carla, you really know that when you hear her name, talagang gagaling ka sa civil law. So I attended lectures actually, Attorney Carla. And even before I took the bar, I would say it was a big help to getting me to where I am today.
Yes, and so, well, mas matanda ako sa inyo. So si Attorney Carla naman ang tatanungin ko kung naging estudyante ko siya.
Yes. So, I was calling you, sir, kanina sa Taxation 1. Kayo po yung aming professor. So,
Yeah.
and si Sir Ramos was very, very nice, very pleasant in the classroom. Never siyang nagagalit sa amin.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And up to now, of course, andito ulit tayo. It's a question and answer talk show under the USTAAI, the Bridges Talk Show, and ganun pa rin. We'll be asking questions, but please forgive Nathan kasi although mas bata siya sa inyo, siya yung magtatanong din tungkol sa Bible.
Nag-resonate din ako ni Nathan pala.
Yes. And
Parang
yes. Si Nathan naman is really active din in his student base. As we know, Nathan, you were the president of the student council, right?
Yes po, Attorney Dwight. Right before I graduated. Kaya until now, definitely bibong-bibo pa rin.
Kaya naman, really, the Bridges Talk Show is very proud of both of you, and I thank you for joining us, and especially for a very, very important topic. No? And this is the Absolute Divorce Bill that we now have in our midst, in our lifetime. No? Alam niyo naman, where we are, it's probably something that we can only dream of, dapat, because we of course adhere to the Catholic University principles. No, but it's here now, so let's talk about it, and let's see what is there and what is not there with our special guest, of course, Attorney Carla. So let me shoot the first question, Attorney Carla. What are your thoughts about this bill? First of all.
Well, from a legal perspective, I get it that the Congress is trying to provide for alternatives to parties who are, as they term it, irremediably broken marriages. So I think that is a way of justifying too the passage of this bill, because the Supreme Court has time and again said that when a marriage is irretrievably broken or it has gone to the level of dysfunction, then it's no longer the marriage that the law seeks to protect. So that's why this avenue has been provided, no, to afford these parties an opportunity to start over. And the options, the law, if I may say so, has lived up to that purpose of giving options. Because one of the characteristics or features which I found to be very unique to this House bill is that it lumped together the different grounds for legal separation, annulment, and even nullity with regard to psychological incapacity, and provided the parties the option to choose which remedy they want to pursue on essentially the same grounds. Well, there are differences, of course, but the meat of the grounds would stay the same. So, interesting yung magiging impact niya sa existing laws natin on annulment, legal separation, and nullity if this law if this bill rather does get enacted into law.
Yes, Nathan.
Actually nga, Attorney Dwight, sobrang nakaka-interest talaga yun. Kasi sa press release nga mismo, no, as Attorney Carla said, yung ibang grounds nga for those different previous grounds or rather different methods of terminating marriage dati, ipagkasama-sama dito. So I guess for a lot of lawyers and maybe those who are interested in learning about this bill, nakapaisip ko talaga how will that affect so many different aspects of our profession, of how we handle cases that are about these types of marriages, how this divorce, this new proceeding that may come out of the bill will affect those different strategies we had. Kaya ano siya very interesting to really hear more about it. Siguro, Attorney Dwight, no, maganda rin kung marinig natin ano kaya yung pinaka naging simula nito. I believe there were a lot of different measures done before. Yung history ng divorce sa Philippines, iba-ibang bills na trinay i-pass. I can even see sa mga resources since 2000, House Bill 2007-90, mga iba-iba. Ang dami.
Yes, Attorney Sanya. So probably, Attorney Carla, you can give us a bit of the history of divorce in the Philippines or the divorce laws for that matter.
Yes. Actually, divorce is not, we cannot really say that divorce is a stranger to the Philippines because we had a divorce law back in the day when the Americans were reigning supreme in the Philippines. We had Act number 2710, where there were two grounds for divorce provided, adultery and concubinage. Then, of course, the Japanese came and they abrogated 2710 and they enacted their own divorce law. It's basically the same. Adultery and concubinage are retained as grounds, but the grounds were expanded to 11. And these grounds would include insanity, attempt on the life of the petitioner by the respondent, physical harm being brought by the respondent upon the petitioner, no? And if this would sound familiar to you, it's because these are basically the grounds that we have presently for legal separation. Yun nga lang, nung nawala na yung mga yung mga Japanese sa atin, and then the old American law on divorce was reinstated, that was also about the time when we had our own civil code, yung RA 386. And for 386, our lawmakers opted for relative divorce, yung legal separation, or only separation from bed and board. And from that time on, no, divorce has never been successfully enacted in the Philippines. So, sabi tama ka nga, Sir Dwight, no, there were several attempts before, pero hindi siya, the attempts never ripened into legislation.
Yes, and that being said, I think this is the most advanced stage already of a legislation to this effect, Tony Carla, no?
To my recollection, there was also another one that the House passed, pero I don't think nag-succeed siya sa Senate. So, Senate naman, as far as I know, the Senate version of the divorce bill has passed the committee level. So,
okay. So,
Ay, sige, Attorney Dwight. You're
go
speaking.
ahead. Go ahead.
Alright, so yun nga, as we know, yung House Bill 9349 is currently in the Senate, and I guess this is something that we are really looking into, how it's progressing, and of course, as we see it's the way it's going through Senate, maganda rin na makita natin ano ba yung mga laman or at least ano ina-entail ng bill na ito. I'm sure there's a lot of different definitions that are being spoken, and having Attorney Carla here would definitely help in enlightening us sa kung ano yung iba-ibang definitions na ito. And let's go to the very, very broad definition given to us by the bill itself. I guess we can ask Attorney Carla, sa opportunity tayo na ito, what do you understand by the definition of absolute divorce ba? Especially in the context of the House bill being run through in Senate right now.
okay. Well, the House bill defines absolute divorce as the judicial dissolution of a marriage or the termination of the bond of matrimony where the spouses return to their single status and they are allowed to remarry. Now, from the perspective of the law, really, divorce is very much similar to legal separation. In fact, no, kung yung legal separation is tinatawag natin relative divorce, ito naman yung divorce itself, siya yung absolute because the marital bond is dissolved. The parties, they are allowed to remarry. So yung legal separation kasi, basically, everything that divorce provides will also be provided by a decree of legal separation. Only the parties cannot remarry. They stay married. So kaya doon sa definition ng House Bill, makikita natin yung emphasis doon sa allowing the parties to remarry.
Yes, but this kind of term and definition, Attorney Carla, is unique to us in in this legislation because pag sinabi naman divorce siguro in other countries, they just say divorce. Pero tayo, to the extent it's an absolute divorce. does not make a difference the way it is defined.
Divorce?
Other countries.
Medyo nag-break kayo, sir, yung sa bandang dulo. I think you're asking...
Yes, but why do we still say absolute?
Yes. I think the point was to differentiate it in a way from legal separation, which is also known by as relative divorce.
Yes. So, tracing back the history, no? So, may dahilan pala yon. But in terms of process as well, Attorney Carla, yung sa status ng House Bill na ito, saan pa dadaan ito before it finally becomes law?
Yes. First, you also know, saka as Nathan knows, yung House Bill naman, it still has to pass through the Senate, no? And the Senate must also approve the same process, magkakaroon ng 2 readings. But I think there's a little complication because the Senate has its own version of a divorce bill. So what will happen is that these 2 versions will be reconciled and maybe a committee composed of members of the House and members of the Senate will be convened and they will have to come up with a harmonized version of the House and the Senate bill. So medyo malayo pa yung tatakbuhin ng proseso. But sinasabi nga nila, malayo na, pero malayo pa. Diba? Yun ang sinasabi ng generations ngayon. Malayo na, pero malayo pa.
That's true. So Nathan, no? So still some time and some long way to go for this, but really very important topic for us. In terms of the declared policy and guiding principles, meron ba ito sa divorce bill? Diba? Normally all the legislation starts from that. Ano ba talaga itong naging declared policy nila and guiding principles for this?
Yes, so very consistent naman yung bill, no? If there's something we can say about the bill, it's consistent with its purpose. Parang yung kanyang underlying theme is always to give the opportunity, no, for the parties. And this is often repeated in the bill. Irremediably failed marriage to start again, to be able to get out of the situation and to remarry. Plus, may added economic aspect din. Kasi they also put emphasis on making sure that the proceedings will not cost very much, that it will be affordable. Kasi I think that has been the common lament about the present legislations that we have now, masyadong parang out of reach or hindi ganun ka-affordable magpa-nullify or magpa-annul. And interestingly enough, merong provision dito sa House Bill where the professional fees of the lawyer handling the case for divorce are limited to 50,000 pesos. All in na. So, but of course, subject to first, the Supreme Court's regulatory supervisory powers over the practice of law, And second, whatever agreement that the lawyer and the client may arrive at. Pero in my experience, kailan ako naka-encounter ng provision of law kung saan yung professional fees, attorney's fees are also regulated. And apart from that, there's also the definition or there's also the recognition of what natawag nilang court-assisted petitioner. So, if you qualify as a court-assisted petitioner, that means you do not make more than 2.5 million in a year, then you get to file a petition for free, wala kang babayaran. You get to be entitled to the assistance of counsel official to be appointed by the court. And then there's supposed to be a pool of expert witnesses, and what psychologists, and whatever else you would need in prosecuting your case, that will be made available for you for free. So, ito yung economic aspect then of making sure that the proceedings would be within the economic reach of the parties.
Interesting Attorney Carla. Lalo na yung sa 50,000 na sinasabi, that is how much you can ask for this kind of petition. But just in case, Attorney Carla, lalo sa lawyers na nakikinig ngayon, the 50,000 pesos, yan ba parang lang siya, advice lang na ito lang yung limit, pero the parties can agree pa rin kung gusto sila lumagpas doon?
The parties can still come to a different. Pero syempre, medyo nakakahon yung 50,000 because it's supposed to be all in Pati yung appearance fee, yung professional fee for drafting the pleading, etc. Meetings, all in all the services. 50,000 lang dapat yung sisingilin mo.
Yeah, very interesting sabi mo, Nathan, to have an economic provision in this kind of legislation. And well, also parang Attorney Carla, siguro based on sa naging ilan na ito kasi because they say the annulment process is really a very expensive one.
Sir, would you mind repeating? Why didn't get the first part?
Yung basis ng 50,000 or putting an economic provision is actually out of the experience sa mga annulment cases nowadays, yung mga ginagawa natin because now they say napakamahal kasi magpa-annul.
Yeah.
So and well, you yourself said medyo nakakagulat din ito. This is something we do not really see every day, having this economic consideration already put in place in a bill or in a law. Yes. May escalation clause ba to, Attorney Carla? Does it mention of any escalation clause?
Pag may interest rate, or pag may inflation, gano'n.
Wala naman, sir. Wala namang naisamang escalation clause.
Yeah, that is probably a thing for the lawyers groups to look at now. Baka pwede magkaroon tayo ng position paper dyan because baka maiwanan. And well, putting a cap is one thing, but of course discouraging lawyers also to go into this practice and help clients. Kung ganyan naman ang magiging sitwasyon, baka it will be counterproductive. Na syempre, I will not go into this anymore kasi napakababa naman or it will not be worth my while. No? If just thinking of it as a livelihood for our lawyers.
I think that's why naglagay sila na parang an out by saying that the parties can still come to a different agreement.
Sa bagay. Ano lang yan?
So parang na? Parang sinasabi lang ng I think I heard.
Suggest retail price. Nathan, ba?
Sabi lang ng bill, please, 50,000 na singilin nyo sa mga kliyente nyo. Please, parang ganun. Pero kayo bahala.
Correct. Okay. So, well, yung mga grounds for this, of course, the grounds for the absolute divorce dito sa House Bill and then comparing it doon sa other grounds. Ano natin dito, Attorney Carla? Is it something like common or sabi mo kanina, it's interesting to see how it affects all the other laws that we have on this. Pare-parehas ba or may bago? Do we see something new here?
Sir Dwight, I don't know if I can, pero meron po kasi akong ginawang slide enumerating the grounds. I know this is not supposed to be a lecture, pero siguro lang po for the convenience of being able to refer to it. Kasi medyo mahaba yung yung provisions niya. So, baka antokin naman yung mga nakikinig sa atin kapag ni-recite ko siya isa-isa. So,
it's okay.
Yeah. That'll be absolutely fine, Attorney Carla.
Okay.
Yes.
Maganda naman yung background ng slide ko.
and I'm sure yes, and I'm sure yan ang hinihintay ng lahat.
Yung grounds, no?
Yung grounds.
Mga slides si Attorney Carla, nakakapagpasa ng bar yan. Kaya,
ganun ba?
Okay yan.
Very good.
Okay, so, alright. Okay. Ayan. Nakikita na yung aking Ayan. Alright.
Yes, so, we can see it.
Okay. So, as I said kanina, the grounds are basically a combination of the grounds for legal separation, grounds for annulment, and even nullity, with regard to psychological incapacity under Article 36. Dito sa ginawa ko pong slide, nilagyan ko lang siya ng mga bold emphasis for those modifications that the divorce bill intends to introduce. So, essentially, makikita naman niyo po, the grounds for legal separation under Article 55, they are adopted as grounds for absolute divorce. Pero, sa number 1, the physical violence does not have to be repeated anymore. So, one instance of physical violence would be sufficient to serve as a ground for absolute divorce. Then, yung ating physical violence or moral pressure to compel the petitioner to change religious or political affiliation, nandiyan pa rin po, yung attempt to corrupt, nandiyan pa rin. In final judgment, sentencing respondent to imprisonment for more than 6 years, even if pardon, nandiyan pa rin. Now, dito po sa drug addiction and addiction alcoholism, we have an additional ground, which is chronic gambling. And the way the divorce bill defines chronic gambling, it's supposed to be a disorder. So, siguro dito papasok din yung pangangailangan sa expert testimony. Because the divorce bill suggests or intends to identify or define chronic gambling as an impulse control disorder in which a person makes habitual ranging in games of chance which compromise, disrupt, or damage family, work, and social relations and vocational pursuits. Then sa number 6, I don't know if it's a typographical error, pero ang naiwanan lang na ground sa number 6 from the provisions on legal separation under the family code is homosexuality. Tinanggal yung lesbianism. And I'm also not sure kung may kinalaman to doon sa guiding principle ng divorce bill, as a pro-woman piece of legislation. Pero it is what it is. Maybe a typo. It may not be. So we will find out, I think in the coming days. Then we continue. Number 7, contracting of a subsequent bigabus marriage. It has been retained. Pero for number 8, yung dating sexual infidelity or perversion, this has been replaced with marital infidelity. So now, we have to read this as marital infidelity, then or perversion, and then this has been expanded to include the ground of having a child with another party other than your spouse during the marriage. With the stated exception, of course, of IVF, plus if the wife happens to have become the victim of rape. Then number 9, this has been expanded to include attempt on the life of a common child or a child of the petitioner. Number 10 is the same. Now, yung last paragraph po dito, this is new. Because here, parang lumalabas that a decree of legal separation would serve as a stepping stone to acquiring an absolute decree of divorce. And that happens if the parties have been legally separated by judicial decree for more than 2 years. So, pag more than 2 years is lang legally separated, then they can now ask for absolute decree of divorce. May bonus pa yan. Because if that is the ground that they will be using, then they will qualify to do so under the summary judicial proceedings na mas madali. So, siguro kung gusto mong mag-shortcut to get that absolute degree of divorce, yung magiging path mo would be to acquire a decree of legal separation first, wait for 2 years, and then go for absolute divorce through the summary judicial proceedings. So, itong portion na to, this only takes care of the grounds that have been adopted from the grounds for legal separation under the family code. Now, we proceed to the next step. The next step pertains to the grounds for annulment, which have also been parlayed into this House Bill on absolute divorce. Dito ako medyo may mga reservations kasi talagang, because as far as I'm concerned, from a legal perspective, the grounds for legal separation, they can really be used as grounds for absolute divorce. Kasi sabi ko nga, basically, para silang magpinsan relative divorce, absolute divorce. Pero yung grounds for annulment, well, this is a totally different ballgame. Kasi yung voidable marriage, it's different from a perfectly valid marriage. Kasi yung voidable marriage, ang basis dyan is vitiated consent, or lack of capacity to enter into the marriage. But anyway, this is how the House Bill has been passed. So number 1, we have yung lack of parental consent. And this applies if the party is within the ages of 18 and 21. Then number 2, insanity or unsoundness of mind. Now, this is also considered as a ground for absolute divorce. Now, then number 3, whenever consent to the marriage is secured through fraud. The effect of the House Bill on absolute divorce in adopting paragraph 3 pertaining to fraud is that it expanded the incidents of fraud that may be used to terminate a marriage. Kasi previously, limited lang tayo doon sa instances under Article 46, which would be non-disclosure of criminal conviction, concealment of pregnancy by another man, concealment of a sexually transmissible disease, concealment of homosexuality, etc. And the family code then was very explicit. No other act of misrepresentation may be used to terminate or to annul a marriage. Pero here, we can see, since the absolute divorce bill did not also adopt the specific instances of fraud under Article 46, lumawak ngayon yung pwede nating gamitin fraud, to obtain the absolute divorce between the parties. So number 4, number 5, number 6, they're basically the same. Now, saan papasok yung overlap? Papasok yung overlap kasi sa family code, para makapag-annulment ka, the grounds must be existing at the time of the marriage. Okay? Pero dito, sa absolute divorce bill, ang sabi ng legislators natin, the grounds mentioned in paragraphs 2, 5, and 6. This may exist either at the time of the marriage or supervenes after the marriage. So, talagang maliwanag na yung overlap ito. kasi, no, if they exist during the marriage, pwede ka mag-annulment, pwede ka mag-absolute divorce will. If they exist subsequent to the marriage, then you are limited to the absolute divorce. And then the last step, no, would pertain to the new grounds under the absolute divorce bill. Same for 5C, which is psychological incapacity. Ito yung the same psychological incapacity under Article 36 of the Family Code. Now, under the new grounds, we have separation in fact for at least 5 years, and reconciliation is highly improbable. Then, isa pang bago is when one of the spouses undergoes a sex assignment surgery and transitions from one sex to another. Now, if you will note, dito sa Section 5E, the right to file the petition for divorce does not only belong, no, to the other spouse, the non-transitioning spouse, but it can also be filed by the spouse who has transitioned into another gender. Then the last two have irreconcilable difference, and then other forms of marital abuse. So, yun yung grounds natin.
Yes.
Si Atty. Carla, no? Sobrang interesting nung, alam na isa-isang ground, yung irreconcilable differences. That appears to be somehow of a catch-all provision. Is that correct understanding? Kumbaga parang, as long as there's something na hindi mag-agree asawa sa marriage, they could go for divorce. Is that what it means?
Well, the law also, the bill rather, no? The bill also defines what irreconcilable difference is. And I'll read to you the definition, kasi medyo parang medical sounding siya. It refers to the substantial incompatibility of the spouses due to their intransigence or fault by holding to divergent and divisive behavior, resulting in the total breakdown of their marriage, which cannot be repaired despite earnest efforts to reconcile. Kaya lang, the House will stop short of requiring expert testimony on this. Kahit na parang, if you read the definition, it would seem to suggest na parang some kind of psychological or medical condition may be involved. So, siguro, mas maliliwanagan to kung nagkaroon na ng implementing rules and regulations yung resulting enacted law, and should this definition still be maintained. But I guess
yes, they're very interesting on that point. And Atty. Carla, comparing this to what we know out of probably the divorce in the US, same grounds ba or this more specific na, no? Parang sa US ito, parang more broad.
Oo, sa US.
Like yung definition ng
irreconcilable differences, basically, kapag talagang hindi lang sila magkasundo. Although I'm not saying naman na baka this was medically based on, parang personally, that's just my impression. And I may be wrong about the way I take the definition. Kaya nga lang kasi, ang problema, kapag we take it in its ordinary sense, I think yung consideration, parang kahit sila na lang na hindi magkasundo, no? Madali na lang nilang i-invoke yung irreconcilable. So, I think some kind of standard must be set, no? Para hindi naman masyadong maging whimsical yung pag-disregard natin sa marriage.
Kasi parang nakikita natin at Atty. Carla, no? If ever the bill would lapse into law, probably there'll be an influx of petitions that will be grounded on that irreconcilable differences.
Oo. Yeah. Ito yung pinakamadali di ba? Irreconcilable differences. Yeah.
Correct.
And I see, Attorney Dwight, may ano po ba kayo? Sorry.
And alin yung mga talagang bago rito, Atty. Carla? What strikes you most of all these, talking about the new grounds that were put forward? What strikes you the most?
Okay. I think what struck me the most would be yung kasi irreconcilable difference, we've heard of that, no, from foreign laws, no, foreign jurisdictions. Siguro yung pinaka-striking would be yung sex reassignment surgery or yung pagka-transition from one sex to another, if only because this shows that Congress is taking note of the changing times, of the changes in societal norms. So, napaka-progressive nito itong portion or itong provision na to, na they've taken note of what is happening in society today.
I reckon Attorney Carla, no? Parang that might be the first time we saw sex reassignment as a term in a possible law. Tama po ba?
Yes, I think so. Although, it could also be argued na baka naman pwedeng subsume na ito doon sa ground of homosexuality or lesbianism. Kaya lang baka I'm getting my soggies wrong, no? So, hindi na ako masyadong pupunta doon. That's just my view. Baka naman pwedeng kasama na siya doon sa ground na yun. Dahil parang it should be a given na when you do this activity or when you undergo this change, then it must be rooted on a sexual or personal identification that is not consistent with the gender that you were born with.
Yes. Tapos, may binanggit pa kayo, parang meron siyang transitory provision. Yung sinabi niyo kanina, bonus of the 2 years and the summary proceedings for those who have been legally separated already.
Yes. Kaya ako nasabing bonus yun kasi kapag if your case would fall, kasi there are certain cases that would fall under yung summary judicial proceedings under the House bill, mas mabilis yung proseso. In fact, pwedeng the petitioner has the option not to be represented by counsel, and then it can also be done ex parte. And I think that the claims here would be the judgment rendered in the summary judicial proceedings would be immediately final and executory. But these proceedings, I would have to point out, would be limited to certain cases only provided under the divorce bill. And if you want, I can share what these are with you. Kung saan po pwede yung summary judicial proceedings. First would be if the spouses have been separated in fact for at least 5 years, and when one of the spouses has contracted a bigamous marriage. And then yung sinasabi ko kanina, when the spouses have been legally separated by judicial decree for at least 2 years. And then number 4, when one of the spouses has been sentenced to imprisonment of at least 6 years, even if subsequently pardoned. And last, when one of the spouses has undergone a sex reassignment surgery or has transitioned into another gender. Now, in these instances, pwedeng joint yung petition filed by both parties or can be filed individually.
Yeah. Ano, Nathan?
Parang there's a lot of different grounds. And actually, we have a comment from our Facebook post about this. Tanong niya, parang halo-halo ang content ng bill. There are so many things, so many grounds that are open and even merged from legal separation and voidable marriages. So does that mean that there will be a future that couples can just choose which ground they would want for divorce and eventually have it availed of if the bill becomes law?
Actually, Nathan, there's actually a provision, There's a provision, in fact, in the law which says that the parties can choose from among legal separation, annulment, nullity on Article 36, or absolute divorce. Siguro ang magkakatalo na lang siya doon sa prescription, no? Sa circumstances, at saka doon sa defenses that are available against the causes that they choose. Kasi as we must still remember, hindi ba, kung legal separation yan, hindi ka na pwede kung nagkaroon ka ng condonation or kung nagkaroon ka ng consent, hindi ba? Kung annulment naman yan, then hindi ka na rin pwede kung halimbawa nagkaroon ka ng ratification, di ba? Because ratification is a defense against annulment. So, there will be a lot of circumstances coming into play. And nandito pa lang tayo sa grounds, ha? We're not even digging under kung ano yung magiging effect nito sa presumption of legitimacy. Kasi dito sa divorce bill, provided that if a child is born within 300 days after the application for divorce is filed, I'm not sure kung after the petition is for divorce is filed or after the petition has been granted, he is presumed to be legitimate. Diba? Unless the ground is marital infidelity. So, maraming kailangan natin, siguro, pag naging batas na lang, kasi baka naman hindi maging batas, sayang naman kung ihimayin natin siya ngayon. So, maraming posibleng maging consequences ng pagkahalo-halo ng grounds. But I also get to ano yung gustong gawin noong Congress. They would really want to open up the opportunity, the avenue to parties in, again, irremediably failed marriages. No?
Yes.
To be able to start again.
At ang dami talaga yung pumapasok sa ulo ko, pero Nathan, baka may question pa dyan. Unahin natin para...
May magandang tanong actually. Kanina na mag-usapan natin yung sex reassignment and transition or change in gender or sex. And ang tanong dito is, would this lead to the possibility that another legislation may come to allow same-sex marriage now, especially considering the trend of how Congress is now recognizing that actual term of sex reassignment?
Alam mo, ako naniniwala naman ako sa buhay na anything is possible. So, no, if a group of people would come together and pass legislation that they want to be passed, sometimes it also does not depend only on them. Kasi nga, we have bicameral tayo eh. So, the House, the Senate, and of course, no, these are politicians. And politicians, they listen to because they go by what's popular. So, it also depends. Diba? Kasi they need to be voted into office. So, it depends also on a lot of factors.
Correct. So, punta na tayo sa consequences after a divorce. What happens, Attorney Carla?
Wala naman siyang, dito medyo mas maliwanag yung batas. Wala naman siyang talagang pinagkaiba sa effects of legal separation. So, nandyan tayo dun sa usual na custody, no? Custody of the kids would have to be ruled upon, and nandun pa rin naman tayo sa we still adhere to the marital privilege rule, marital preferential rule, that no child under 7 will be taken away from the mother. Pag over 7, then they get to choose. And of course, may support sa mga bata, no? And then the requirement to deliver the presumptive legitimes that's still in place. Siguro, dito ngayon, meron tayong specific for the spouses. Meron tayong natawag na alimony that would be given to the offended spouse who may not be gainfully employed. And he or she will get to enjoy that alimony for a period of, I think, 3 years or until he or she remarries or gains employment. So, nandun din yung liquidation ng ating community property, conjugal partnership. The only big difference really is that ngayon, the marital bond is severed And of course, the parties will now be able to remarry.
Yes. Nathan,
Actually, Attorney Dwight, narinig ko yung maraming consequences. I can imagine if this does become a law, it's gonna become a nightmare for future law students. Lalo na ang dami ng additional consequence na alalahanin.
correct. And so, sige, bilis-bilisan natin. Yung sa procedure naman, Attorney Carla, how does it go for the absolute divorce bill?
Okay. Sa absolute divorce bill, it's the bill is also very explicit in saying that the same procedure will have to be followed, no? Meaning to say there must be a verified petition filed, there will be an investigation, that there is no collusion or connivance between the parties. There is also a prohibition against a confession of judgment, no? Yung mga staple, mga staple rules natin yan for annulment, legal separation, and nullity. Ang pinagkaiba nga nito is yung ating provision for first, yung summary judicial proceedings na masyadong mabilis naman, no? Opposite naman noong going through the process na nakasanayan natin sa summary judicial proceedings, as I mentioned, pwedeng walang lawyer, no? Pwedeng ex parte, and immediately final and executory yung ating divorce decree. Now, meron pa din cooling off period. Kaya lang, sa legal separation, yung cooling off period natin, I'm sure you still remember, this 6 months. Pero dito sa ating absolute divorce, 60 days lang. So, sa tingin ko, parang hindi naman masyadong realistic yun na you give the party 60 days to be able to sort things out and reconcile if they want. Yung 6 months nga, medyo na-exceed pa yun. But that is what's provided in the law. No? We have 60 days. So, yun lang. As I mentioned, it's basically the same, save for the emphasis where we apply the summary proceedings, summary judicial proceedings rules.
Actually, Attorney Dwight, since you're talking about proceedings, may isang question ako na very, very curious ako malaman kung ano yung effect ng divorce bill. Because we know there is also recognition of foreign divorces under Article 26, if I'm not mistaken. And with this divorce bill, what would be its effect to recognition of foreign divorce? Would there be any consequence to how the process would usually go back then versus when the bill becomes law?
Tama ka, Nathan, no? We have Article 26 in place. Pero dito sa ating House Bill, meron din silang provision saying na, well, basically dispensing with the need for a judicial proceeding to recognize a foreign divorce decree. Parang under Section 6 of the House Bill, it's enough that the foreign divorce decree be authenticated by the Philippine consul in the foreign country where the decree was obtained, or even the country proximate to that foreign country. And then it seems to imply that the divorce decree, the foreign divorce decree, may thereupon be registered here in the Philippines to ating civil registries. Now, as you will know, medyo taliwas to dun sa proseso na ginagawa natin. Kasi, hindi ba, whenever we have a foreign judgment and it is in personam, it's only a presumption. No? It only carries a presumption of validity. Pero with this, parang iba eh. We're now affording the foreign judgment
Yes.
the point of proper jurisdiction, di ba? Or kung nagkaroon ba ng observance of due process. So, parang nawala yun, yung process na yun.
Yes.
That appears to be the case, yeah.
And then still on civil recognition, no? Kung sa valid canonical or church dissolution naman, or declarations of nullity of marriage, how does it go, Attorney Carla?
Ay, sir, the same privilege is also extended to canonical decisions on nullifying marriages. So basically, kailangan lang din magkaroon ng authentication this time around by the proper authorities of the Catholic Church or whatever religious sect or organization granted the nullity decree. And then it would have under the divorce bill, it would have the same effect as an absolute divorce obtained under its provisions.
So, tama, Attorney Carlo, no? Parang dating, yung foreign divorce and yung valid canonical or church dissolution, they are now under administrative procedures na no longer having to go through the courts anymore if the bill becomes law.
Parang yan din yung impression that I got. Dahil kailangan lang ng authentication and then meron ng mandate for registration with the civil registries. So I'm not even sure if this amounts to an amendment of Article 4112 of the Civil Code, diba? Dapat bago ka makapag-cancel ng entry sa civil registry, diba? Dapat meron kang judicial decree, no? Or a court decree to be able to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another question that we need to ask. So, yun nga yung maging effect yan.
Sige. There might be questions, Nathan, no, dyan sa chat box. But before that, let's just finish this off with a discussion on the prescription naman. How does it go for the absolute divorce Attorney Carla?
Yes. Yung prescription niya, it's 10 years from the time that the cause took place, or from the time of its discovery, or from the time that the absolute divorce law has come into effect, whichever is later. So, kanina, yung sinasabi ko nga sa pamimili na magkakatalo lang sa prescription or other circumstances, this is what I meant. Kasi, yung 10 years, the prescriptive period for absolute divorce, it's longer than the 5-year prescriptive period that we have for either legal separation or annulment. So, pwede na, well, I have a ground for annulment, pero lumipas na yung period ko to file a petition for annulment. Pero, kung papasa itong batas na to, pwede ko pa rin gamitin, no? At so use the same ground, but this time, no longer for annulment, but for absolute divorce.
Okay, that's true. So, timing is really important as well. So, dapat alam natin kung kailan magpe-prescribe because we might lose the right to file na, Nathan. Any questions dyan sa ating chat box?
Actually, meron tayong interesting na question. And just to recall, tama ba, Attorney Carla, di ba isang ground relates to violence? It states physical and psychological violence. And there's this one insight from the chat box na I think is worth considering kasi ang tanong is, why not consider all forms of violence? Because as we know, dun sa Anti-Violence Against Women and Children Act, there's also the concept of economic violence, and probably there may be other offsprings of different kinds of violence as we progress through what's happening right now in society. So, why should is it okay that it's limited only to physical or psychological violence, or is there a need to consider that there must be other types of violence that would be considered by Congress?
Actually, hindi na mapapasok yung paglalump together, no? Kasi parang, pag sinabi mong physical violence, yung isip mo, nadadirect agad doon sa physical violence as mentioned in the grounds for legal separation adopted by the absolute divorce bill. Pero actually, doon sa mga bagong grounds na binanggit natin sa bandang dulo, meron tayong tinatawag na domestic or marital abuse, no, as grounds. And this domestic or marital abuse, it actually includes all kinds of violence. Physical, psychological, and emotional, sexual violence, or economic abuse. Basically, ito yung mga nasa 9262, yung ating VAUSI law. So, in fact, the Absolute Divorce Bill also says that even if you use this grounds of domestic or marital abuse, psychological, physical, sexual, or economic abuse, no, for divorce, you are not precluded from prosecuting the respondent for violation of the VAUSI, in violence against women and children law.
Right.
Or,
Right. Any more questions? Baka meron pa? We're really running out of time.
Attorney Dwight, based sa nakita nating discussion in the chat box, a lot of the questions have already been answered sa previous discussions.
Yes,
And I
yes.
think the one who asked about the violence portion would really, really love the answer Attorney Carla gave. Kasi yun nga, there are other grounds that may actually encompass the other kinds of abuses that are being considered, aside from physical and psychological. So I believe we are through with the questions from the chat box today, Attorney Dwight.
Yes, and I'm sure if you're just like me, a lot more questions, but of course we don't have much time anymore. So again, we'd like to thank really Attorney Carla for joining us today. And siguro yan po namin kayo ng one last message, no? In this day and age that we have this bill at pinag-uusapan and this and that, what's your message to our viewers?
Wala akong message.
Sige. Ang probably,
Yun lang natin ko na paghandaan yung message sa viewers. But I'm just happy to be here and happy to be a vehicle for sharing my knowledge of the law.
yes, of course, and thank you very much. And siguro, yung message mo na lang will answer one last question, which I'm sure people will be asking you from now on because they heard it from this show. Pwede na palang mag-divorce, which will be court-assisted, Attorney Carla?
Yung court-assisted petitioner, yes. So, meron ng court-assisted petitioner concept under the absolute divorce bill. So, you can file a petition for divorce for free. You'll be assisted by counsel official, and you will have accredited psychologists, experts, no, to assist you from a pool that will be established by, I'm not sure to what government agency, but by the government under the mandate of this bill.
Interesting. That we have to see. But of course, as you said very early on, medyo malayo na, pero malayo pa. And this talk actually opens the discussion so we can be aware, we can be knowledgeable about this bill, Nathan, right? And probably join in the conversation. It will help us join the conversation. So once again, thank you, Attorney Carla, and hope to see you once again in the future episodes on many other legal matters.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you again, Attorney Carla.
Thank you, Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Hi, Attorney Carla. Thank you so much for the wonderful discussion.
Yes, I also enjoyed myself later. Bye-bye.
Bye, Attorney.
Yes. Nathan, what do you think?
Actually, Attorney, sobrang insightful talaga, especially hearing that these are the different contents of the bill. I myself have yet to get a copy of the bill mismo. And now that I attended this as one of the hosts, fortunately, and it is with great honor as well, it's nice to know about how this bill is actually written at this point in the legal perspective. Although I'm sure there are different views that we have personally, as far as we're concerned, we discussed what the bill has, what the law would say, and how it will affect society as a whole. Kaya maganda na napagdaanan natin ito for everyone's information and for us to know what to expect should there be further discussions, lalo na nabanggit ni Attorney Carla. It's with the Senate and malayo pa, pero malayo na rin. Kaya tingnan natin kung ano yung mga susunod na mangyayari.
Thank you for that, Attorney Nathan. And of course, thank you for joining us and hope to see you in the future episodes also as host or probably even as a guest in the future. So, before we finally close the show, I would like to congratulate and thank all the alumni associations and the Calirega Philippines for the successful medical, surgical, dental mission in Nasugbu, Batangas.
Indeed. Congratulations, USTAAI, sa kakatapos ninyong activity sa Calirega. And of course, we would like to thank the UST Law Alumni Foundation Incorporated and the UST Alumni Association Incorporated, and as well as Enriquez Security Services Incorporated for sponsoring this episode of Bridges. Kaya naman, to all our viewers, please remember to follow USTAAI on Facebook at facebook.com/USTAAI, and of course, subscribe to the USTAAI TAC channel. Because here at Bridges, we do not build walls. We build connections to reach out to one another.
Thank you, everyone. And always remember, here at Bridges, we build bridges of faith, bridges of hope, and bridges of love. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Mabuhay, everyone. Thank you.